Welcome to IDA's video channel. In this video, I'll show you how to convert a polyline to a bulk water pipeline. First, I need to start a drawing on a correct template. So I will use a IDA's ANZ 2024 version 338 with part list. Let me open that drawing. Then I want to import a surface. I will import surface from XML file. I prepared it beforehand. As you know, there are various ways how to create a surface. So it's not part of this training. And then I will bring in the backdrop image. So I go to external references and I will bring in bulk water backdrop. Okay. And okay. Now I need to save the drawing and I will call it bulk water 04 convert polyline to pipe network. Okay. And if I switch on the line weight, so this is where there is a pump station. So we'll be pumping from here up north a long way to this point. So I can start to draw a polyline. So I will draw a normal polyline. So I can start somewhere here. And I can draw the polyline. If I want, I can display the backdrop image as well. Let me quickly set the coordinate system. So I will use a NZTM. Okay. And then I will display the backdrop image, map aerial. So it's easier for me. I would like to follow the left lane on the road. And again, I can draw a polyline and I will start somewhere here and I will go. Of course, I can do it beautifully perpendicular to the road, but for now I will do it just by eye. And here I want a horizontal curve, so I will do something like this and I will adjust it later if I'm not happy. Then I will go around here and again, if I want, I can introduce the horizontal curve. I'm just trying to figure out all the lanes here as it gets a little bit busy. And I go up north and then I go straight here. I will cross the road and then I will finish at this location. I should probably move this BI a bit as I don't want to be in a street. Okay, and then I will use a fillet with a radius and let's say 100. Let me use that value. It doesn't look that right, so let me undo a bit and I will modify this, so something like that, and then fillet radius 200, and then I can do something like this. It's probably too much. Let me use a fillet radius. I will use a smaller radius, 50 meters. That should be fine for this case. 50 meters. Then here I can leave it as it is, or if I want, I can introduce the same applies. I want to do it something like this, fillet, and again I will use something like 50 meters, and the same applies here. I'll do it slightly like that, fillet radius, and then it goes all the way through and I'm happy with the rest. So I do have a polyline. Let me unload the backdrop image because it's a little bit too busy. I will unload, and what I will do, I can highlight that polyline in plan so it's easier to see my polyline. So I have a polyline with the curves as well as without curves with some changes in direction. And I will turn off backdrop image so it's easier to see the polyline. If I want to convert the entire polyline to a pipe network, I can use IDA's command bulk water wizard. You saw me that I draw it in a flow direction. So that's quite important. When it comes to network name, I can use a bulk water, part list water. When it comes to pipe type, I can choose the type which I want to use for this exercise. I will use Acutech HDPR. Unfortunately, this is not sorted numerically, but alphabetically. So it might be a little bit difficult to follow, but I will use 160 diameter for now. And then there is a junction, NGL Otara, and I can go next. Then under the layout, I can specify the alignment name. I can specify alignment style. If I want, I can add the labels. I can erase the existing polyline if I wish to. And I want to create profile view from the alignment. And there's the optional surface profile style NGL. And for the profile view style, I will use a pipe water level at structure band set 1. And for the band set, it must match. So as you can see, pipe water levels at structure band set 1 in meters. And then the next, and here are some parameters where I can specify the minimum pipe cover. The cover is only measured at the beginning and at the end of the pipe, so in the middle it's not measured. Then there is a maximum cover. I can divide pipe at a specific interval if I wish to. There is a calculation interval, which means how often I want to calculate the profile from surface and the pipeline. And then I have a weeding options, and you never know what weeding option will work for your pipe network. So you can play with the various settings. For example, I will run 2 options. Let's say weeding 50% and then weeding, let's say 75%. I can compare the results, and whichever gives me the better result, I will keep. And then elevation match at the center. I can define whether I want the elevation to match at the center, invert, or crown. But my pipes are the same, so we can keep it at the center. And then I can click on Create Network. I select the polyline, and I specify the location for the profile view. So IDAS creates pipe network, it creates profile view, profile from surface, and everything. So this is the result. If I go to Prospector, Alignments, Center line, there's a bulk water alignment. That alignment has also profile view and profile from surface. And if I go to pipe networks, there's a pipe network bulk water. If I want, because this doesn't look bad, I can use it. But if I want, I can run it one more time to see whether I will follow the surface better. So let's try that. And I'm going to use the same command. I go to bulk water wizard. By the way, IDAS remembers the last command, so I can just click there and it remembers the last command. I will call it bulk water 2. I will use the same settings. I go next. Then alignment name, I will call it bulk water 2. Side pipe network, the settings is the same, but for the weeding, I can do something like that. Or I can make it more dense like this. And let me go next. Let me go to Create Network. And then I select polyline. I need to switch on the selection cycling because there are multiple objects on top of each other. So let me select a polyline, and then I need to specify the location for the profile view. So I will add it in here. And let me zoom closer. And I believe we might have a little bit more vertices here. As you can see, for example, at this section, I have a 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices. If I zoom in here, I might have less, 1, 2. You can see that the number of vertical lines is a little bit higher in this case because I have more vertices, but there's not massive difference in this case. So basically I can erase the second option. So I can do it from Prospector, which is the easiest option. So what I'll do, there are 2 alignments, or there should be 2 alignments. The second alignment doesn't display. Let me check the side one. If it's here and it was positioned under the side one, let me select it and just delete it. So that's the bulk water 2, and that will delete the profile view as well. And I also need to delete the network bulk water 2. So I will select it here. I go to delete. Yes, and I'm happy, and this will be a very good starting point. If I want to, I can delete this polyline, or I can move it to a new layer, which I can use later on. So I can call it underscore source poly like that, and I will move the polyline into that layer, and I can freeze that layer. So let me select polyline and source polyline. Perfect, and I will freeze that layer. So I have only pipe network. By the way, this corner looks like the structure is not connected, but if I move it, everything refreshes. This is something to do with the graphics on my computer, but it is connected, but we'll cover other things later. You can also see that where there is a curve, there is no curved pipe. I will cover that as well later on. The same applies here. Keep in mind that converting polyline to a pipe network is a very convenient way of creating a bulk water pipeline, but in some cases this might not be the optimal workflow, and that's what will be covered in other videos where I will design horizontal alignment and vertical alignment for the pipe network.